Hello there, everyone. This is Miriam, holistic life coach and mind body practitioner at Pain Outside the Box. And today I'm going to be speaking about the single most important factor that led me to recover really fast from my pain symptoms. So, as some of you know, 7 years ago, I was suffering from chronic shoulder pain, sciatica pain, piriformis pain, neuropathic pain in both my hands and arms, other pains all over the body. And it was only getting worse until I discovered the mind-body syndrome TMS approach. For those of you who don't know, the TMS approach refers to a number of symptoms that are actually emotional in origin, but which a lot of people mistake for problems within the body structure itself, or they think they have an illness or an infection or something chronic that is not related to their emotional state. But in actual fact, TMS symptoms are psychosomatic symptoms in the sense that they are fueled by our own emotional state, which of course is influenced by our stressors, by our life problems, and also by the way that we respond and react to our body and our symptoms as well. So, to get back on track, the single most important thing that helped me recover quite fast, and by fast I mean that it took me around 6 weeks to get back to normal activity, to get back to previous activities that I enjoyed, such as hiking and also rock climbing. Of course, then it took me a little bit longer to get back my previous fitness levels, especially in climbing, of course, to get more strength back. But it took me around 5 to 6 weeks to be confident to just go out there and resume all normal activity without being too careful about how I was using my body or too worried about whether the activity would hurt. Okay? So, the single most important factor was actually eliminating my doubt that there was nothing structurally wrong with my body and that I had no illness, no chronic infection, no chronic virus or whatever. So, eliminating my doubt in the physical, let's say, in a purely physical origin to the symptom, and accepting that it was in fact mind-body syndrome. So how did I eliminate that doubt? Well, first of all, I learned as much as I could about TMS and how it manifests and how it works. I read a lot of information on the TMS wiki, which still exists today. So it's a Wikipedia for mind-body syndrome that has some very useful information to make you aware of whether you are suffering from this syndrome or not. I also read Dr. John Sarno's Healing Back Pain, which is right here beside me. And as I read the book, I completely resonated with what he was saying. I could completely identify with the kind of personality types he was describing. And also my symptoms fit the picture perfectly. So, for example, Sarno describes different ways in which TMS manifests, the fact that you might have multiple symptoms in the body, the fact that the pain sometimes is worse, sometimes it's better. Okay, so there are many indications which indicate that your symptoms are actually mind-body in origin. And as you familiarize yourself with these indications, these indicators, let's say, you will gain more confidence that this is exactly what you might be suffering from. And it is the case, by the way, in 90% of chronic symptoms that have remained unresolved after several months, okay? So it's not like I was the exception. Most people who come to this work with an open mind realize that they're actually suffering from TMS, mind-body syndrome, really. But of course, to really get to this realization and get rid of the doubt in, structural causes or illnesses, you really have to learn how it works. So what really helped me, the first step was to learn as much as I could about the syndrome, okay? To learn that no matter how my symptoms manifested, okay, there were enough indications showing me that this was probably it. Now, what happened was that because I kind of saw myself in Sarno's book and I started to get really aware of what was happening, I got rid of the fear, okay, which is extremely important. So before I was really, really scared of where my body was heading, right? I was afraid that I would remain disabled. I was afraid that maybe there was a hidden illness somewhere that was gonna maybe kill me or disable me for life. So I was carrying around so much fear towards my body. I was not trusting my body, of course. And when I learned that it was that very fear that was keeping the cycle going, I kind of relaxed. So it wasn't just about reading the book and, learning something. It was also realizing how my mental state was contributing to the symptoms. I could totally see it. So basically what happened, and what happens in all cases of recovery, is that my confidence was high enough that there was nothing majorly wrong with my body. And because of that, there was what I call a mindset shift. So mindset shift is a shift in the way you are feeling and thinking. So before I was feeling really scared, extremely scared, okay, because these symptoms were really weird and very, very painful. And they were robbing me of my life. So of course I was very scared. I felt like a true victim. I felt very, very unlucky. But then as I started learning, when it all started to make sense, I felt relieved, very relieved, and also very interested and fascinated about the whole process. So you can see there the mindset shift from the fear, okay, to more confidence and belief and a sense of interest and fascination. It's a totally different emotional state, okay? So even up till today, I recognize in a lot of people who either talk to me in a coaching session or who post online, I realize that also their main stumbling block is the doubt. They are still partially thinking or wondering or worrying that their symptoms are not really TMS, that they are really ill, that their body is really damaged or broken forever, and because of that, they cannot move forward. And I've experienced this myself with a couple of symptoms later on. So this was after I resolved my original symptoms. So some years later, I had also started coaching. And at one point, I had developed some neck pain. And at another point, I had developed what we call elbow tendonitis or tennis elbow. And both times I had blamed it on a climbing injury because I was going to a bouldering wall and it was quite intense, of course, on my body. And the symptoms weren't resolving. So a few months passed and I was getting worse, not better. Or on some days, maybe I felt a bit better, but then again, I felt that, I was back to square one and that my symptoms were probably even getting worse. So both these times, I obviously still suspected that there might be something structural, like an injury that hasn't yet healed. And then I also started to worry, like, what if the injury is serious? What if it needs surgery? What if? So for as long as I had this doubt, even when I tried to move on with life, even if I tried to stay as active as I could, I still had the pain and it wasn't getting any better. In both cases, there came a day when I kind of realized where I was heading, when I kind of looked at all the indications and said firmly to myself, like, hey, what if this is just TMS? What if I can just be better tomorrow, next week? There's nothing wrong with me. And I think in both cases, I came to this realization when the symptoms got bad enough that it didn't make sense anymore. So I was kind of, at one point, I was resting, I was giving it time, and it was still getting worse. So it didn't make sense from a structural, injury perspective. And at another time, it was getting really ridiculous. For example, with the neck pain, my neck was blocking when I sneezed, for example. Okay, so it was that bad. And that's when I realized, like, hey, I think this is TMS. It has got me again. I also knew that I was going through a stressful time at that point. So there was enough reason for my body to have developed the mind-body syndrome. And that's when I decided, hey, no more thinking back to maybe it's an injury or maybe this or maybe that. What if I treat it as TMS, as I did my previous symptoms? And there you go. Within a few days, my symptoms resolved just like that. And I didn't have to solve all my problems back then. There was still some, pressure in my life. Of course, I couldn't change everything just like that. But the pain itself, because I eliminated that doubt factor, it just went away. And of course, it's amazing each time I experience it, because I realized that it's mainly the fear of our body, the fear and the doubt that usually keeps symptoms stuck in the body. Once I let go of that and I start to trust my body again, that it's not broken, that it's not injured, then the symptoms just resolve automatically within a few days. Of course, I don't want you to compare yourself to me, because everyone's situation is slightly different and life factors do matter. So of course, if you have a lot of pressure in your life, other problems or stressful events coming up, these may affect the intensity and the duration of your symptoms. And this is why also in my coaching and programs, we look into other life factors. Besides the way that you are thinking and believing about the pain, we also look into other life factors. But one of the first things that I also get my coaching clients to do, and also in my online program, one of the first things I get people to do is to write an evidence list of indicators that show that their symptoms might be simply a case of the mind-body syndrome, okay? So people would just start adding to their lists all of the things that suggest that, their symptoms are not just structural, such as the fact that they change location, the fact that they have multiple symptoms, the fact that their symptoms were better when they were having a good day or worse when they were having a stressful day. There are several indicators. If you look out for them, and if you do have TMS, eventually it will become obvious. But you have to look for them initially, because the dominant state of mind of someone who has chronic unresolved symptoms is always to look for something external to blame the symptoms on. It's always to think back to that past injury, to that past accident, to a medication that has caused side effects, to anything that might have caused it. This is the fear that keeps the symptoms alive. We're so afraid that something is out there to get us, that something is damaging us, and that it's killing us. So in the beginning, we have to look for these indicators. We have to educate ourselves, and then through our life experience, we start to notice how our pain or symptoms manifest, and we start to make a case. So this evidence list and making a case is actually one of the first things that I get individuals to do, and that I do myself if I ever have a symptom that smacks of TMS, a symptom that I feel might be TMS, that I suspect so. Okay, so that's really it. The number one factor that has led me to have very fast recovery is eliminating my doubt and this readiness and decisiveness to let go of any remaining doubt in favor of other evidence and indicators, okay? And you might ask me, but what if I'm wrong? What if there's really something seriously wrong? Well, then you probably won't find a lot of indicators, and you might need to double check, of course, with your doctor to make sure that there is nothing in the body that needs urgent treatment, okay? To make sure that there is, for example, no rupture, no bone breakage, no infection going on at that moment. So, of course, it's always important to rule out serious medical conditions that need treatment. But for the majority of individuals who have gone through that route and who have had different treatments and nothing has worked and it's been months and years, it's usually a case of the mind-body syndrome, and all you need to do is trust and work on this assumption. The more confident you can feel that this is all you got, the faster you will recover, because then it will also be easier for you to start resuming activities with a sense of confidence and trust. And because you won't be moving about in fear, you will be feeling less and less pain until it goes away on its own. That's really how TMS works. And that's all from me for today. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.